As fate would have it, right before getting on to talk to y'all, I looked at my X page, and there has been uh, this message that popped up from the Tennessee Holler that was reposted by Midas Touch. I respect both of these sources quite a bit because they are independent, and they really do their research and do their work. But there's a big but here. For the last uh, few days, maybe yes, 2 days or so, there's been this talk that Donald Trump's militarization and weaponization of the National Guard of DC to then to then make DC into a police state is a distraction from Jeffrey Epstein's scandal. So the Tennessee Holler says, post a video and quotes Steve Bannon in regard to Trump's DC takeover. Steve Bannon said, I hope this is a template for Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. In parentheses, reminder, this is an authoritarian power grab to distract from his Epstein cover-up. I respectfully disagree on that last point. Donald Trump's police state ambition is not a distraction from anything. It is a standalone issue. It is an issue that Donald Trump put into the works in April by issuing the two police state orders for sanctuary cities and going after migrants. And then there was another one late last month, that targeted homeless people and mentally ill people. Now, you can't say that the Epstein scandal is the only thing that is scandalous or controversial. Therefore, everything else that you hear becomes a distraction from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. I'll give you an example. When talking about the racism and the bigotry that underlies Donald Trump's policy, he was talking that day and he said, you talk about inner city people, and I'm paraphrasing, inner city people don't want those jobs, referring to farm jobs. And then saying those people, referring to farm workers who are not inner city, they know how to carry the weight on their backs. And if they break their backs, they're dead. And so talking about them like a commodity, clearly you see two layers of racism there, where you're talking about inner city folks who have no scope of going to farms, not wanting to do work. So that idea that inner city people, who are largely people of color, are lazy. And then you go over to the other layer of racism, where he's talking about the migrant labor that works in American farms. So you see that racism that underlies everything that he does. That's not a distraction from Epstein files. That is his core racism coming out. His media attacks, whether you go from Colbert to defunding of public radio and the Corporation for Public Media, is not a distraction from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. His attacks on education when it comes to going after Columbia, and now he's going after University of California, UCLA. And I don't think Gavin Newsom is going to put up with his state's public university system being exhorted and coerced by Donald Trump. So we're going to see how that goes. But that also is not a distraction from Jeffrey Epstein. Those are attacks, foundational attacks on education, foundational attacks on the freedom of press. His big, beautiful bill is a foundational attack on how America works in having a robust free market economy while also keeping a well-funded social safety net so that people can have upward mobility and an equal playing field, and America remains a place of opportunity and not just where your money is going to take you far. Donald Trump's mentality, his economy, is that all about money, all about making people rich, his people close to him, himself. And then he has these attacks on, while he's enriching his group of robber barons, the smart robber barons of this era, you have him talking about cutting the media for lying, education cuts from lying. So his distractions have distractions, but they're not necessarily distractions from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal is also a distraction of sorts from the other things. So I hope that independent media understands that when Donald Trump is talking about militarizing DC and going after homeless people, mentally ill people, and migrants, he is not distracting from the Epstein files any more than he's distracting from the ban on trans rights. And the ban on trans rights is not distracting any more from the Epstein files than the Epstein files is distracting from the trans rights or the homeless, attacks on the homeless. You understand what I'm trying to say? It's tangled. It's all a weave. This is the weave of chaos, which you can never entangle. And to make it easy, you say that the issue that you are focused on is the main issue and everything else is a distraction. And right now, the central issue that is being sensationalized is the Epstein issue. And it needs to be sensationalized. What I'm saying here is that so do the other issues. The other issues need to be sensationalized equally as much as Jeffrey Epstein's issue. We should talk about all of them every single time. I know it's going to be hard, but it's difficult on those trans service members in our military who have given their lives to serving the country and who are now being dismissed without any sort of retirement benefits because of a transgender ban. That is discrimination on the basis of sex, violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the Fifth Amendment, and not even a rational, there is no legitimate reason for the military to deny these benefits to these people. But that is an issue that is being sidelined because, Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein is an issue, and we need to keep calling for the release of those files. But the attack on trans people is also an issue. Donald Trump meeting with Putin about Ukraine in Alaska is an issue, independent of Epstein. Dropping the bomb on Iran, when I say the bomb, it's the largest massive bomb that you have now blown up in Iran, as opposed to having blown up the Moab in Afghanistan, in the hills of Afghanistan. You talk about Donald Trump being a peaceful president. while he's dropping these bombs, while he's standing strong with Bibi Netanyahu and meeting with Putin, while he's marginalizing and targeting homeless people and migrants and mentally ill people, the vulnerable people he is going after. His deportations and his detention centers, his attacks on birthright citizenship, his attack on electoral rights, voting rights through redistricting in Texas, the gerrymandering that he is advocating for in the red states. And the blue states are going to push back on that and fight fire with fire. So far, Illinois, New York, and California have said that they're going to. And so those are the three biggest Democratic states, and they have strong supermajorities of Democrats to be able to do that. So that's also big news next to the Epstein files. The Epstein files is not a distraction from them, and they are not a distraction from the Epstein files. If I can talk about all of this in under 15 minutes every day, somebody in the media should be able to say that as well, that these are all equally important issues and scandals. And that's why I keep saying that we're in the middle of multiple crises and multiple constitutional crises, multiple public policy and international crises, trade crises, that we are burning our bridges by undoing U.S. aid, sort of becoming not an honest broker of peace between Ukraine and Russia, because Donald Trump is not. He's going to want Ukraine to give up territory, and when Ukraine says no, he's going to blame Zelensky for not allowing peace. That's an issue. That's not a distraction from Epstein, though. You know, then you have the smaller issues that come up about going after Obama for treason. Outlandish. The thing about that actor Sweeney and the jeans, it's a race culture war. You have to understand that those could be classified as distractions, but those are minor things. And we need to be able to discern between those things and Donald Trump gutting the government, or Donald Trump's Epstein scandal, or Donald Trump's police state that started in LA and going after sanctuary jurisdictions, going after migrants, but also rounding up U.S. citizens in the process. You have his chaos with the tariffs. And we are seeing that now with the revised number from the Labor Statistics Department and him doing away with the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics and putting in somebody who has no expertise in being a low-level operative in BLS, let alone the commissioner. So you can't trust the labor numbers that are coming up, the job numbers that are going to come out, and the economic numbers that are come out from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's a huge deal for our economy. And that is not a distraction from the Epstein scandal. Neither is the police state that Donald Trump is implementing in Washington, D.C., that he implemented in Los Angeles. Los Angeles, it didn't go so well. Los Angeles, there's a case in the Ninth Circuit. There's a case in trial right now that is regarding the violation of the Basi Comitatus Act. So California didn't go so hot. So he's going to D.C. He tried a little bit in Chicago. He tried a little bit in Omaha. He tried a little bit in some other cities. But then he said, no, I'm going to try this in D.C. That's where he has most control, because the citizens of D.C. are represented by nobody in the U.S. government. the president has control over DC. And in the late 70s, I believe, or maybe a little bit before that, there was a law passed by Congress that gave DC a mayor and a city council that governs DC. But the DC, instead of making DC a police state, which Donald Trump is doing, to see how far he can take his police state orders from April and then from July, he's going to see how far he can go in DC with these, because it's a great test city. It's also a sanctuary city. It's also a city where, I don't know for sure if it's a sanctuary city, but I think it is. It is also a city where there's homeless people. So it's the perfect test case. And he has the most amount of power out of any city in the United States. So he's going to do his most here. We're not going to know where homeless people are disappeared to. We're not going to know where mentally ill people are disappeared to, because his executive order says that he gives, he has the right to hold them. He has a right to put them in an institution, and where that power comes from is besides the point. It's because he's trying to lower crime. That's not a distraction from Jeffrey Epstein. Please don't say that. That takes away from both the Jeffrey Epstein scandal as well as the placeholder scandal that you think they are distracting from the Jeffrey Epstein scandal with. That's not the case. These are all independent scandals. But also understand that when you start talking about things like outlandish things like Obama treason and thinking about building a power station on the moon, throwing out different trade dates. He has just postponed the China tariffs for 3 more months. So Taco, those are all part of the news. But then there are gradations of news. And try to see them in parity with the reality of what is going to happen and the impact, the harm that it is going to cause if you say that the police state coming is just a distraction from the Epstein issue. The Epstein issue is a big problem for Donald Trump himself. The police state problem is a problem for every single American, for every single person living in the United States. With that said, thank you for listening to me. Please like, share, and subscribe. Your time is invaluable, and I appreciate every minute of it. I don't stop to ask for your time in the middle of the videos. Maybe I should, but at the end of it, I want to say that it is you that I'm informing. Without you, my work is incomplete. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for sharing. If you tag me on the shares, I may be able to find you, but I'm not really good with social media. Very basic knowledge of it. So I appreciate you sharing, engaging, liking, and thanking me and supporting me. And I appreciate that very much. Thanks a lot. I want to keep this under 20 minutes, and this time it's been successful. Bye.